Okay, in all my videos, I always explain to you about certain legal terms. And some videos are longer than others, but I'm just trying to get you to understand. Sometimes when I speak, when lawyers speak, judges, politicians, you listen to Congress, they use these simple terms and they're actually laws and nobody's abiding by them. Legally, all public servants, that includes all lawyers are public servants. If you read the rules of professional conduct in a preamble, it will tell you that. But all public servants are required to do what's in the public interest and maintain the public trust, and the public trust is the legal system. If you read the public trust doctrine, it'll tell you the legal system, medical education, what's in the public trust. Basically your trust fund. So if something happening to you and you don't think it's right, it usually isn't. And it starts with deprivation of rights, and that deprivation of rights starts with the term under the color of law, which is often happens. Whether it's politics, legal affairs, people are often known to operate under the color of law. Under the color of law refers to government officials or individuals acting with the appearance of a legal authority, even if their actions are illegal or exceed their actual power, often involving the deprivation of civil rights, as detailed in U.S. Code Title 18, Section 242, and explored in Richard Rothstein's book, The Color of Law, about government-enforced segregation. It signifies an abuse of power like excessive force or false arrest by police covered by federal civil rights law. Legal meaning, U.S. Code 242 definition. An official commits a crime under the color of law if they willingly deprive someone of a constitutional right while acting in their official capacity, whether within or beyond their legal authority. Examples: unlawful searches, excessive force, false arrest, or fabricating evidence by law enforcement. Scope covers federal, state, and local officials, including off-duty officers acting under the badge's guise. Uh, Cultural historical meaning, The Color of Law by Richard Rothstein. The best-selling book details how explicit federal, state, and local government policies created and enforced racial segregation in America, not just private bias. And that started when the Constitution was written. The law of the land still hasn't been enforced, and that's where you get the deprivation of rights under the color of law, because you're being deprived of your right to due process, because you're being denied your right to a fair trial, and that's because you're being denied your right to effective assistance of counsel. And effective assistance of counsel describes the rules of professional conduct and the code of judicial conduct. So the videos I made before this one and before that one is describing deprivation of rights under the color of law. And since you have one more person working at it, that gives you a conspiracy against right under the color of law. Okay. So I talked to a lot of people throughout the years and explained to them that, what's going on in court, they're acting under the color of law. Acting under the color of law refers to government officials using their perceived government authority, even if they are exceeding or abusing it, to violate someone's constitutional rights, making wrongful actions appear legitimate. That's, like depriving you due process. Trial. This applies to police, judges, and other officials performing official duties in companies. Excessive force, false arrest, and theft, and basis for federal civil rights prosecutions and lawsuits. Use of authority, government connection. The act must stem from the from the power granted by government agencies, uh, who's included police officers, prison officials, judges, even private individuals acting with state authority can fall in this category. So just because you think it's legal, because these are judges and lawyers, that's just the way the system works. And they'll leave a lot of things out to make you look guilty. A police officer uses their badge to unlawfully enter a home or assault a resident. Even though assault is illegal, they acted under the color law because they use their official status to commit the act. Criminal charges, Department of Justice investigates and prosecutes such violations. I've been telling you. All you have to do is Google a complaint under the color of law complaint. You can Google deprivation of rights complaint, a conspiracy against rights complaint form, and it'll take you to DOJ, the FBI. Okay, and that's when I told you about the RICO Act. Penalties, prison fines, forfeiture of all ill-gotten gains. See, that includes, your public officials, governments, judges, lawyers. And then I gave you that short thing to say. Sorry. Where is it? You can keep. Right here. You use that, conspiracy against rights under the color of law. See, that's... And then right down to here. Conspiracy, it says, this is how to maintain the public trust. Failure to do so would add to this conspiracy against rights under the color of law. So that's as far as you got. But you got to know what you're talking about, so that's why I threw all this other stuff in there, because, all this below it is explaining what this says, okay? What that means. See, so you'll see my videos. I put conspiracy against rights. One of them is about under the color of law, conspiracy against rights under the color of law, deprivation of rights. And I'm explaining each one of those videos what these terms mean. So all you have to do is go through the videos, pick out the verbiage you want to use. Just look at the titles of each video, and that's the term you're going to want to use. But you're going to have to understand what that means. So that's why I did the videos, so you'll understand what that means, and you'll understand what I mean, what lawyers and judges mean, what politicians mean, when lawmakers tend to be lawbreakers when they can't even live up to the oath. The penalties for violating the oath, right? I did a video on that. I did a video on penalties for violating the letter of the law, penalties for violating the rule of law. I talked to you about how Chief Justice, the U.S. Supreme Court, I forgot his name, complaining about how the rule of law is eroding. Well, nobody's facing the penalties for violating the rule of law. So, if you want your public servants to hold your other public servants accountable, you're going to have to start bringing some laws with you. Okay? Because if your lawyer isn't doing this for you, then he's not working for you, he's working against you. And if you go through the rules of professional conduct, you'll be able to decide for yourself. I did a video on the rules of professional conduct. See, look at with that little, that's 3 paragraphs, and it tells you all these laws that are being broken down here. Okay? That's a whole lot of not doing something they're supposed to be doing, right? So they're doing a whole lot they shouldn't be because they're not doing a whole lot they should be. See, that 3 paragraphs says all this, okay? I'm just trying to get you to understand that. But you just got to know what you're talking about, because everybody in that courtroom is going to play stupid like they don't know what the hell you're talking about. People complain to you. If they know that's their job, why ain't they doing it? Well, they ain't doing it because you don't know what their job is. Okay, so, people, this is free. I'm doing it for free. I ask for nothing. I want nothing. This is a pay-it-forward program, you know. You know. This is something nobody can ever take away from you, what you know. Once you know, you know. Okay, so I did a lot of videos for you, all right? So you're just going to learn what these terms mean and use those terms. So I'm throwing everything what those terms mean. Just like I did here. Look at all this, all this. Look at all of this. Whoa, that's a lot of stuff, all right? You're explaining all this didn't happen. And all it takes is this right here. This. Whew. That's a lot to be said. Okay, so all it takes is to say this. Conspiracy against rights under the color of law. A judge failed to report my counsel and the opposing party for multiple counts of misconduct, themselves for judicial misconduct. The opposing party failed to report the judge for judicial conduct, my counsel for ineffective assistance of counsel, and themselves for misconduct. My counsel failed to report the judge for judicial misconduct, the opposing party for misconduct, and themselves for ineffective assistance of counsel. Reporting misconduct is mandatory in both the rules of professional conduct and the code of judicial conduct. Failure to report misconduct just as well as failure to enforce one's constitutional duties as prescribed in the rules and the codes. The lack of requirements of the Sixth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution is beyond unethical. The lack of effective assistance of counsel doesn't allow for a fair trial, which shows due process didn't exist. A deprivation of rights in its entirety, which clearly shows the judge and attorneys in my case committed a conspiracy against rights under the color of law, which is prohibited, willful deprivation of rights or immunities under the color of law. So they have no immunities operating under the color of law. There is no qualified immunity for this. Okay, people, there is no qualified immunity. You just bitch slapped them as if you were the hand of God. Prohibits conspiracies to injure, oppress, threaten, or intimidate any person. Free exercise of enjoyment of any right or privilege secured by the Constitution and law of the United States. I trust you will live up to the oath, show competence, diligence, in expediting litigation if I have meritorious claims of contention. So I strongly stress reporting professional misconduct and maintaining the integrity of the profession. I trust communications will be made for ethical violation. Every penalty will be imposed in the public interest. As trustees, this is how to maintain the public trust. Failure to do so will add to this conspiracy against rights under the color of law. That's all you got to say, and everything below it is what you're saying in legal terms. I told you reporting misconduct is mandatory. Maintaining the integrity of court, that's in the canons, and the rules of professional conduct. I mean, these are laws. Communication, that's rule 1.4, that's a law. And I threw these laws at you. I just said them instead of, but those are federal laws. Ineffective assistance of counsel. Effective assistance of counsel is mandatory for all lawyers, which is described in Rules of Professional Conduct as well as the Code of Judicial Conduct. The opposing party, whether it be the state's attorney, the opposing party, whether it be in child court custody or what, doesn't matter. The opposing party. Fairness to the opposing party, that doesn't happen. And see, so just see, nobody abided by the rules and the codes, and that's what makes it so super easy for you, okay? Nobody's abiding by the law in order to do what they did to you. So instead of telling me your story, you tell them, but first you throw this at them. Okay, and then you could tell your story and you start using the rules and the codes as you tell your story to show how they broke the law. Okay, so it's not that I don't want to hear your story, because I've read too many of your stories. I look for you on the internet. I go to a lot of different places to find you. And I see you all have a lot of questions, so sometimes I'll ask a question that's a combination of quite a few of your questions. And so it's hard to talk to you personally because there's so many of you. I never kept count of the population of our country, but it's over 350 million of you. And I can't be there for all of you. I wish I could. But legally, this is my signature. Use that. I've been saying this since 1979. Okay, conspiracy against rights under the color of law. But when I originally wrote it was a conspiracy of deprivation of rights under the color of law. You know, a lot of terminology in the legal arena has changed throughout the years. When I first read the Rules of Professional Conduct in 1979, the opening statement in the preamble, the Rules of Professional Conduct was failure to abide by the rules and the codes is denying one effective assistance of counsel, thus violating the Sixth Amendment of the United States Constitution. They took it out. I threw that around for so long, so many times. And the preamble, it tells you, that was clearly in the interest of the bar. See, that's what made it super easy for me to understand that due process doesn't exist, that I never got a fair trial. I knew that while it was going on, but I didn't know how things were supposed to play out. And then when I found out how they were supposed to play out, when I read the Rules of Professional Conduct and the Code of Judicial Conduct and found out none of that happened, that's when I came up that they conspired to deprive me of my birthrights, my constitutional rights, under the color of law. I don't care if you don't remember my name, as long as you remember your birthrights and how easily and how long you've been deprived of them. It's not a whole lot to say, but it says a whole lot, okay? It says a whole lot. No matter what state you're in, no matter what court you're in, use that. Use that. It says a whole lot. You just gotta, look up every term. Constitutional duties, misconduct, due process, willful deprivation of rights. That's against the law. There are no immunities for doing that, okay? There are no immunities. It's just that, you haven't stopped to realize what you're working against, who you're up against. And you won't know until you, at least at the very beginning understand how things were supposed to start out. Okay? And that starts with reading the rules of professional conduct and the code of judicial conduct. And you'll see how none of that happened. So just out of curiosity, Google rules of professional conduct complaint form and Google the code of judicial conduct complaint form, and that tells you where to file the complaint against. Then you got the rules and the codes. That's all your ammunition. That's all you need. I mean, the law itself prove you were deprived of rights. You don't need exculpatory evidence. You don't need evidence. You don't need anybody to testify in court because you have the law that nobody abided by. Laws. They took an oath to do this. The Constitution thing, to live up to the oath. You know what the violations are for failure to live up to the oath. And see, I go through a lot of these laws with you, and then I explain to you what's behind the terminology. That's all. So people, you should really take the time to watch the videos or look up these terms yourself and understand. Once you put these words together, you can say a whole lot with a little bit. Okay? Look at it, ends right there. Failure to do so would add to this conspiracy against rights under the color of law. All right, people, you have a good night, all right? This is for you, all of you. You're beautiful. You inspire me. The Constitution was written and dedicated to serve and protect you. And I'm doing my best. I may not be a public servant, but I've always lived up to that self-imposed ethics, if you will. You have a good day. May your Creator always be with you and rain many blessings. And God willing, may this be one of them. You have a good night.